Welcome to Gospel Diaries, a platform that offers a unique avenue for artists to share their stories, express their thoughts, emotions, and personal journeys. Today we're in Kansas City, Missouri with Bishop Otto T. Houston. Welcome to Gospel Diaries, y'all. If you look at this setting, I'm in the home of the one and the only Bishop Otto T. Houston. Praise the Lord.
The third.
May I please shake your hand first and foremost?
Thank you, sir.
Blessings on blessings. All right, so listen, you guys. For those that don't know, you must be living on a rock if you don't know, but this is the fourth pastor the world-renowned First Church of Deliverance, founded by the iconic Reverend Clarence H. Cobbs, better known as preacher. And he's done some phenomenal things with the church. He's done some phenomenal things with the Reformation, which is the Metropolitan Spiritual Churches Incorporated, which were birthed right here in the city of Kansas City, Missouri. And we're here right in his home. And we're going to delve into this Gospel Diary. So would you take a moment to show him some love in the comment section? Say, praise the Lord, Bishop Otto T. Houston. I'll wait. All right.
Thank you.
All right. How are you doing?
So far, so good, thank the Lord. I'm standing on the premises waiting on the promises.
Listen, I flew all the way from Phoenix, Arizona this morning to come and look.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm so honored. Thank you. That you would come to see me. Thank you.
So what's going on in life right now?
Now I'm the retired pastor of First Church of Deliverance, which means I get up when I want to, and I lay down when I want to, and I take a trip when I want to, and I don't have all the pressure. I'm still doing the work. I'm just not in the facility. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So let's just to break the ice. So I saw a photo of you and Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson's an icon. And I saw this photo and I just was going nuts. Okay, so please, I'm gonna put the photo on the screen. Tell us a little bit about this photo.
Well, we were at First Church. We were having the luncheon or breakfast for Reverend Jesse Jackson in the community center in the dining room, and there were people there that were part of his Reformation, his organization, and we kept waiting on him, you know. So one of my members, her name is Hazel Thomas, she said, let me call the house and see, you know, what's holding them up. So when they called Jesse, he said, I'm being delayed because Michael Jackson is here and he wanted to talk to me. And Miss Thomas said, well, we're waiting on you down to First Church, bring Michael with you. So Jesse told Michael, you said, I'm going down to First Church to Bishop Houston. Would you like to? And he said, oh, yeah. So he came, you know, and he was part of the afternoon, and they took pictures with everybody. He's in person in a small setting. He's bashful, but he's at stage on stage. He's at home. Yeah, very nice person.
Wow. So, and he absolutely stepped in the doors of First Church of Deliverance.
He wasn't in the church; he was in the community center.
Community center. And is that adjacent? Is that where's?
It's right on the corner of 43rd and Wabash.
Okay, so that's like right behind where
Alice's is right behind.
You know, listen, that barbecue there.
You like it?
Do I like it?
Okay. Everybody likes Alice's.
Unfortunately, I think the founder just passed away not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not too long ago.
Okay, well, I worked in the office. I did office hours. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we would get our lunch. Mm-hmm. Well, they knew I liked the cheeseburger on toast. Okay. So when they called, they said, Bishop Houston Most is special. They said, yeah, we know, cheeseburger on toast. Yeah.
All right, Bishop, let's get into it, all right? So you have been a part of the Metropolitan Spiritual Churches for as long as you can remember, huh?
I was born there. Okay, right.
All right. So let's talk about the early days. First of all, can you give us a explanation of the definition of define the spiritual church? Like, what is the doctrine behind the spiritual church?
That God is the spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. It's not a denomination. Okay. That's your relationship. Mm-hmm. With God, but now, as preacher used to say, it's not something that you can read upon. It's just something that happens. You have that connection. But now every church mm-hmm. that's open in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ is a spiritual church. Okay. Now there are spiritual pastors and things that don't have the label mm-hmm. Baptist or spiritual, or it could be Baptist church. They just have it. It's just something that you have. Mm-hmm. It's your connection. Okay.
Thank you
for sharing that. In short, without a long letter.
Okay. Well, okay. Now, what about the candles? Because we see the spiritualists, they deal with the candles and a lot of those elements. So, can you elaborate a little bit?
We light our lights, and the Lord our God lights our darkness, and that Jesus is the light.
Say that one more time. What did you just say?
We light our lights, and the Lord our God lights my darkness. Now, you see I have a light burning in my bedroom. I have one downstairs. I keep my light burning.
My God.
When I was little, my mother used to burn my light out, blow it out. And I said, Lord, if you ever give me my own place, I'm going to have a place where I can burn my light and nobody's going to interfere with it. So I don't let nobody touch my light. Mm-hmm. I don't want nobody else's vibration over my lights. I keep my light burning. But one time, when Reverend Lawson was the pastor of Metropolitan, we traveled to First Church to preacher's home. And preacher said, Lawson, I want you and Butch to come and go with me. I'm going to the candlelight service. He gave out candles at First Church on Friday. This was before I moved there. Mm-hmm. And so we went to the service and people were coming to get their lights. And I said, Lord, because in those days, if your pastor didn't tell you to move, you didn't move. Mm-hmm. And I said, Lord, the preacher's really spiritual. Mm-hmm. Let him give me a light. No sooner, and I thought that preacher walked to the edge. He said, come here, Butch. Here's one for you and one for Lost. Okay. I never will forget that. Okay. Yeah, that happened.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't bother my light.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, you're going to let it shine.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Everywhere I go.
Everywhere I go, I let my light shine. All right. So look, Kansas City, we have the mother church. So we're going to start here. So can you give us a little history about the Metropolitan? First of all, there's the difference. You have the Metropolitan Spiritual Churches Incorporated, which is the reformation of churches. And then you also have the church that was founded by Bishop William Frank Taylor and co-founded by Leviticus Boswell. So let's start there. Let's talk about the origins of the Metropolitan Church, spiritual church.
The Metropolitan was founded, 1925 by Bishop Frank Taylor and Elder Boswell, and it is the first organized spiritual church in the world. Mm-hmm. There have always been spiritual people. There have always been people who had the gift of prophecy, but they did it in their homes or in places sort of like in secret. But Bishop Taylor is the first person to open it up. And it's a church with organized boards, usher board, choir, trustee board. So it's the first organized spiritual church. So in organizing the church, he also organized the little churches that were following him as the Metropolitan Spiritual Church of Christ Incorporated.
Mhm.
So now I don't know how it is today, but when he organized the church and organized the Congress, he made the Congress a part of the church. It's just like the board of the church. So as long as Metropolitan Church existed, the Congress would exist. But I can't tell you much about the details how it's operated now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about early on. Can you talk about one of the first movements of the Spirit that you can remember as a child? Did you have any experiences as a child?
We always had, as far as I can remember, I remember Reverend Boswell really had the gift of prophecy, and so did preacher. In his Sunday morning services, he would give the message, and then he would just pick out somebody at random who the Spirit would direct him, and he would say, "Stand up," and he would tell that person, "Tomorrow, such and such thing is going to." You could. He was excellent because I was sitting there when I was 8 in the service, and he prophesied his own death. He said, "Before this time next Sunday, some great minister will be going on to be with the Lord." That Thursday he passed away. Yeah, that happened.
Wow. And it makes me think about your grandmother. She told you about a prophecy that Bishop William Taylor had gave her referring you. Can you share it?
She was a member of the choir.
Her name?
Mildred B. Houston.
Okay.
And so we called her Grandma Peach. And so she said she went to a Thursday night service. And she said it was a crowd of people that the choir didn't sing in the week, they just sang on Sundays, you know. And so she said as she was leaving out the door, the way they lifted the offering at that time is when you left out the door, the pastor would be standing here. And as you, like when we came in down there, then you give your offering there and keep on going. She said that Bishop Taylor stopped her and he said, "A proposition will be offered to you in the next 7 days. Remember, God has wonderfully blessed you." He said, "Yes, there's a halo over your head. You're going to have a blessed child born in your home." So the first part of the prophecy, when he said a proposition would be offered to her in 7 days, she said her husband, which was my grandfather, told her she had to either leave the church or give up him. So she said she gave up him, you know. But then this is before my mother and father even met, that I was born in her apartment, 811 Euclid, Kansas City, Missouri, right? But she kept telling me all through my childhood, she had seemed like more of a connection with Bishop Taylor than she did Reverend Boswell, even though she liked Reverend Boswell, he was a pastor, but it was just something about Bishop Taylor that she was drawn to, you know. And she kept saying, "Peach, it's going to happen." She said, "Because Bishop Taylor," she kept, I will get it both of them. Wow. She said, "It's going to happen because he told me," you know. Yeah. So it came to pass. Came to pass. My anniversary, elected pastor, is March the 17th, 1996. Bishop Taylor passed away on the same date, March 17th, but it's only 42. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a moment to digress. Well, go somewhere else. So I want you to elaborate. What do Jesus Christ or what do the church mean to you? How do you define it? How do you process the church? How do you process Christianity?
It's just there. That's all I can tell you. It's just there. Now, before I became pastor, I didn't know I was going to be pastor of First Church. In January of 96, because I wasn't elected until March, Reverend Cobbs came to me, and I've told this in church several times. He came to me with his mother, and he said, "I want you to do things in a big way." His mother didn't say nothing. And he told me one person in the church he named to watch out for, and he said, "I'll be back." That was the first night. It's in the books right there. The second night, Jesus came to me. I can't tell you what it looked like. because he didn't let me sing. He said to me, "You're going to go through a little darkness, but I will be with you." And I'll never forget that. And the third night, Father Abraham came to me. And the reason I know it was Father Abraham, because all he said to me is, "I am Father Abraham." Father Abraham was kind of like Reverend Cobbs' spirit guide. He always referred to Father Abraham, and the service would get real sacred, you know. So that's all I can tell you. It's just been my connection from birth.
I love it.
As far as Jesus is concerned.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick little musical intermission. I think we're going to play something by Ralph Goodpastor, Out of Nowhere, Jesus Found Me. Thank you for watching Gospel Diaries. Let me tell you guys that we have merch at our store on Eric Mark. Thanks for supporting. Now let's get back to the show. So let's talk about the first time that you met Preacher Cobbs, Reverend Clarence Cobbs.
Oh, Lord. We're really going back. You know, he used to come to Metropolitan, and they used to come down for the anniversary. And I would be around the parsons there after I'd grown up with Reverend Lawson, who was the fourth pastor, and Reverend Thornton, and Daisy, go back, and a lot of them. And so it was really Reverend Thornton who wanted to take me back to Chicago. I was 15 then, and then Reverend, "Oh no, he won't go, you know." So after I got 25 or so, Miss Preacher, I was at his house, and he thought I could do better, you know, if I moved to Chicago. Actually, we had the Congress here in '68, and Miss Kennedy was staying with my mother, Judy May Kennedy. Okay. Right. Okay. And so my mother, you know, mothers always get in son's stuff. It's just like Mary got in Jesus' stuff at the wedding of Cana. They ran out of wine, blah, 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 and Jesus says, "Not time for me to be doing my work." And she didn't argue. She just told the servant, said, "Whatever he tells you to do it." You know, so my mother, she told Miss Kennedy that I was planning to drive to Los Angeles when the con was over, and I was talking blah, 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 blah. So Miss Kennedy says, "Don't worry, baby. I'm taking him to Chicago when I leave tomorrow." And I'm saying, "I don't have no plans to go to Chicago. I'm going to Los Angeles." So she did. She paid my airfare, and I flew to Chicago, and I spent the night with her. So on a Sunday morning, we go to church. I'm sitting on the front row, and in the midst of the service, preacher walks down. He says, "When did you get here?" I said, "Last night." He said, "Well, where are you staying?" I said, "Mama Julius. You tell her to bring you to the house." I said, "Miss Service." I said, "Okay." So when we go back, I said, "Miss Kennedy, preacher says for you to bring me over to the house." He's just mad because you with me.
Oh,
She said, but I'm going to take you. And you so I go over there, and she takes my stuff. There was another couple, husband and wife. I can't think of their names. They were pastor and co-pastor of a church in Youngstown, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us, we ended up staying with preacher the whole week because I told preacher I'm going to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
My ticket says Los Angeles in the morning. Where you stay with me and you go to Los Angeles Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all that stuff. So in the process, he mentions about he thought I could do better if I moved to Chicago. So this is 68.
Mm-hmm.
So when I come back home, I asked my pastor, Reverend Lawson, I said, preacher wants me to move to Chicago. What do you think about it? He said, well, go and try it and see how it works. And if it doesn't work out, then you can always come home. Mm-hmm. But what made me really think about the move, going to Chicago, because it was the will of God. Because you see, it was the will of God, because that was in preparation to follow preacher number 4 as the leader of the church. Reverend Lawson said to me, he says, the Lord told me to go to Elgin, Illinois, and start a church. Mm-hmm. And I never went. He said, I've always regretted it. And that stuck in my mind. I'm saying to myself, that never left my mind. I wonder if I should go. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm going to go and try it. Mm-hmm. And if it works out, then I know it's the Lord's will. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, then I come back. But it turned out to be God's will.
Yes.
Yeah, turned out.
So let me ask you this question. Can you encourage the audience? Like, what word could you give to someone that's dealing with regrets in life? How do one triumph over regrets?
Over what?
Regrets.
Regrets? Mm-hmm. A lot of prayer. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of prayer, and hold to God's unchanging hand. You just hold to God's unchanging hand and know that God will see you through. Mm-hmm. He will see you through. Just stay faithful. Just stay on the vine. Mm-hmm. Stay on the vine. Mm-hmm. Before this, but you have pictures of them.
So Bishop Tindall, so on a typical Sunday, you're coming into the sanctuary, the Lord spoke to you, you're getting ready to give a message to the people of God. Where do you come in at? And what is your ritual? What do you do?
Like, okay, we come in right depending when we make the declaration, we come up to the altar. Okay. And which is Jesus is the light of the world, the same that is. And then all the choirs will sing the song, We Walk in the Light, Beautiful Light. Mm-hmm. And then we come down from there to the front of the altar here, and we begin to recite the Lord's Prayer, or sing the Lord's Prayer, whichever comes first, the Lord's Prayer, 23rd Psalms. And then we go back to the altar, and then the choir by that time is down the aisle, and we begin to sing How I Got Over.
Okay.
It's a tradition of the church for many, many years. It's a song written by Reverend Clarence H. Cobbs out of Chicago. And so we sang the song How I Got Over. And then
do your soul look back and wonder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Soul look back and wonder how I got over.
Okay.
So after that, then we do what we call the Decalogue of Lord have mercy upon us, incline our hearts to keep thy law. That's universal in all the spiritual churches in the United States and Africa.
So when this Reformation started, roughly how many congregations was under this belt, the Metropolitan Spiritual Churches?
Well, what happened is the founder of the church, Bishop William Taylor, he would go around to different cities and relate to and talk to different smaller churches, and those smaller churches teamed up with Metropolitan. They became associates, affiliates of the church. And then on anniversary time, wasn't it Bishop Houston anniversary? They gathered here at the anniversary time, wasn't it? In September.
Right.
Yeah, they came in September. All the churches that Bishop Taylor had gotten together, and they would, begin. The fellowship would be spiritual in nature, and it was kind of a conglomerate or fellowship of churches. And after the death of Bishop Taylor, Reverend Cobbs became the president of the organization and took it to greater heights.
Okay.
Much greater heights. He left the Congress in great shape, and of course many churches that affiliated with that. Dr. Kearse out of Baltimore came along with Bishop Reverend Cobbs. They went to Africa, and they formed churches in Africa. And so, as a result of that, we have churches in both United States and Africa and throughout the United States.
So what's something that sticks out to mind when I mention the name Preacher Cobbs? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Because you met him, right?
Oh, I did. I meet him. He appointed me pastor of this church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he appointed me the pastor of the church. He asked me to come down and take care of the church that he got here in September. And I wasn't pastor. I didn't want to be a pastor. And he asked me would I come down and take care of the church until he got here. He would bring a pastor. He would bring somebody. And when he came, after those many weeks and a couple, 3-4 months of taking on the church, the membership wanted me to carry on. They wanted me to stay. And so Reverend Cobbs agreed with it. He elevated me to the office of pastor of the church. So that's the beginning of when I started.
And what year are we talking?
That was 1976.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And you've been here ever since.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing. So is there anything significant about this 3-seater here?
What?
This 3-seater.
Those 3 chairs were brought here by Bishop Bryant, the present pastor.
Okay.
Out of New York. He bought those chairs, the chairs you see out in the lobby.
Okay.
He bought those chairs here. So I'm just saddened that you didn't see the church the way it really is. If you come back sometime and at our invitation, I'll be glad to, come back for the Congress. You'll see a whole different
And when
church.
is the Congress?
It's going to be the second week in July.
Second
of
week
this
in
year.
July. Gospel Diaries, if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, what's the address?
1231 Garfield, Kansas City, Missouri.
Are y'all gonna be churching here?
Oh, it's going to be church like you've never seen it before.
Hi, Eric Maurice Clark here, sharing ways that you can support Gospel Diaries. First and foremost, thank you so much for your interest in this platform, and let's support every artist that appears on this program. All right, so we do have a magazine. It's entitled The Gospel Music Gazette, and you can obtain a copy by going to ericmauriceclark.com. That will help us share and help spread our purpose here at Gospel Diaries. Also, you can donate by way of Zelle, Cash App, or traditionally through mail. We do appreciate you, and as I always say, love on someone and you will change your life. Bye. But anyway, let's get back into our dialogue. So you come to Chicago with Julia May Kennedy, and you stay with Preacher, and you leave that Saturday going to Los Angeles, right? So what else? What happened?
Went to Los Angeles, and then I came on back home. Well, as the year passed, I started preparation, to move to Chicago, which the following year, in June, I did move to Chicago, and I stayed with Preacher at the house you interviewed for 3 months, and then I finally got a job and stuff, and we go on from there. But in the course of that, he sent me to Baltimore to help the church there in Baltimore.
As a teenager?
You
talking about as a teenager?
No, after I moved to Chicago.
Oh, okay, right.
Then I moved. Then I went to Baltimore and helped that church for 3 years, and I came back. When I came back, I was trying to find a job. I was trying to get on at the CTA, and I was staying with some people, and I worked for the post office on the 89 days. They hire you for 9. If they take you for 9, they have to give you benefits, so they cut you off at 89 days.
And so you stayed on.
Well, I'm trying to find a job, So after that played out, and I kept on praying, and I kept on going to church like Father Hayes' song, Jesus will work it out. Diane with da 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 da. So the Spirit of the Lord spoke to me and said, I had made friends with this Catholic store. It's no longer in business, at Sedgwick and North Avenue. I would go there and get things for the church a lot. And so the owners, they took a liking to me and trust me, So the Lord said to me, get a case of 7-day lights clear. Don't get them from the church, because we still lights at the church, and the preacher was still living. Go and get a case of clear lights, and I did, and I came back to it, and the Lord said to me, light all 12. And I lit them. And the people I was there, a lady asked me, said, what are all these candles you burn? I never answered. And so I got a job right then at the American Exchange Bank. I said, oh, thank you, Jesus. I got a job. It was driving whatever the little vehicle was and doing stuff. And at the same time, I got a letter to start at the CTA. So I had to go back and tell the people at the Exchange Bank that I couldn't take the job, because now I got a job at the CTA. And the people at the bank said, give us a chance, But I went on and took the job at the CTA. When I got the job at the CTA, I was in church that first Sunday after I got the job, because we was going to school for 2 weeks before you get on the street. And the Spirit of the Lord said to me, I'm not going to ever forget it. I gave you this job to show you what I could do. You will have to give it up. My feathers fell. I said, give it a job, now you're going to take it away from me. But the Lord didn't mean right there. It was for me to get what I needed for that job, for the real job that he was giving me down the line as the pastor. And I did. I gave up my job at CTA to take the congregation of First Church.
Let's talk about pastorship. Like, how would you say, I don't want to use the word groom, but for lack of a better word, what do you think groomed you into the knowledge of pastoring the church? Like, yeah.
Being with the pastors here and then being with the pastors there. It's just something all that knowledge I gained all that. So some stuff I learned to do and some stuff not to do. And then, of course, in the course of working with people through the Chicago Transit Authority and stuff, was helped me.
So being at First Church of Deliverance, so you're at First Church of Deliverance roughly around 68, 69. There's a lot of pressure. This is a mega church, African American church. There's a lot of talk about this church. Some people say witch workers, voodoo workers, and things like that, because you're dealing with the spirit. So what would you say, how did you deal with the pressure of being, like, in a sense, an outcast religion, opposed to Church of God in Christ, the holiness movement, the Baptist movement, and so forth? How did you deal with the criticism of being in a spiritual
I didn't
church?
have it.
You heard it.
It didn't bother me. It don't faze me. you know, because it's what you accept, and I don't have. If you're not talking good, you're not talking about me, right? So, but I never had to confront any of that. They always, the pastors, we were all from different banners, but we all had a relationship because we took Father Reverend Evans as our father.
Oh, really?
And so we would, all of us of all these different faiths, we came together once a month over that fellowship.
Wait, are you talking about the Minister Alliance? No, that's way before that. Because remember, he's had the Minister Alliance where you had Christian Tabernacle, Fellowship.
Yeah, it was all us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was all of us. And each one of us would take a chance of hosting when we didn't go to fellowship, because I hosted it a couple of times in the dining room at First Church. So we, I didn't have no problem whatsoever. And of course, they always called me the leader of the spiritual church, and I said Bishop Tyndall in Kansas City is over us, So I never had to face that.
Okay. So before we get into your pastorate, we have to talk about some key people at First Church of Deliverance, like Irma Grant. Of course, we spoke about her shortly. Let's start with Raph Goodpastor. When did you first meet Raph Goodpastor?
Uncle Ralph came from Mother Woods Church.
Mother Woods Church, okay.
In Los Angeles, California, Triangular Church of Religious Science. Remember I told you she was married to Mr. Wood, who was the builder of the mother church here. And he played from her church in Los Angeles. And Mr. Bolden, who was the secretary First Church with Reverend Cobbs, they went there, and they liked it, and they invited him to move to Chicago. And but then, after I grew up and I knew Uncle Ralph through the Congress and all, that's how I became to know him.
Okay. Now tell us, how was Uncle Ralph?
Very comical.
Okay. Give us a funny incident.
Well, a funny incident. Tell a lady to stand up. He was just comical. You just never knew where Uncle Ralph was coming from. Yeah, well, it was a lot. Go back.
And you had to keep a straight face, huh?
Always.
Let me ask you this question. Okay, so say for instance, Uncle Ralph would do something or say something funny during the service, and you all just wanted to die laughing. Or say for instance, you started laughing. Did preacher ever say anything about giggles in service or anything like that?
We didn't let him see us.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, that was one of the 7 evils. Oh no. Uncle Ralph would have his back turned. We would be laughing, but we didn't open that can of worms. Absolutely not. Till one time we had a member of the church called Drunk Richard. And Richard decided to come to church. We had all kinds of characters when preacher was little. I didn't have so much of the problem, but he had the characters, and you never knew what was going to happen in the service. The two things are, first of all, we talked about Drunk Richard. We were having a consecration. People were coming down. You come down, you lay your money on the Bible. So preacher was standing in the middle aisle, being deep, touching people. Well, and I'm standing right there on the floor by the Bible and the money. Richard needed some beer money, I guess he did. And he reached down and grabbed a handful of bills. So I walked up to preacher. I said, "Preacher, Richard got some of your consecration." He said, "Which way did he go?" I said, "There you go." He tore off after me. Wow. That was an incident. Another time, we had a guy that sat in the back of the church on the north side, on the inner aisle. And he decided that he was going to, I don't know what you would call it, but make his demonstration while Reverend Cobbs was starting his sermon. He came from the back of the church. He said, nah, And I thought, oh, please don't start. Please. Nah. He came all the way down, all the way to the end to where the steps are. Reverend Cobbs never stopped talking. He never stopped talking. The kid turned around. He nah all the way back to his seat. He sat down. I said, thank you, Jesus. You did rattle that cage this morning. Next Sunday came. We got up at the same time. He nah. I said, you got away with it last Sunday, but I wouldn't push it. He came all the way down and preached the son. You had it last Sunday. This is my Sunday. Those two things I remember. Oh, you had it last Sunday. This is my Sunday.
Wow. All right. So Elizabeth Hall.
What about Elizabeth?
Tell us a little bit about her.
Well, Elizabeth, she was a very good singer, you know, and she and I were very close. But also in the week time, Monday through Friday, she cooked over at Preacher's house. She did the dinner.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. She was a good cook, and they do. I love sweet potatoes. So Preacher told me if I died first, he was gonna put a sweet potato in my casket. Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk about some of the songs, some of the staples of First Church. You got Just a Closer Walk with Thee, Jesus is the Light of the World. Well, tell us the story about Jesus.
Jesus is the Light of the World was written by Thomas Darcy. It came down to the Mother Church, and he said Bishop Taylor is the originator of Jesus is the Light of the World. And of course, now it's all over the world. But he's the one that started the phrase, Jesus is the light of the world. So when he came down there with Thomas Darcy, saw that sign, that gave him the inspiration to write Jesus is the light of the world for the Mother Church. But First Church is the one that makes it famous. Yeah.
Wow. And then you have like Sing to the Power of the Lord Comes Down.
That's an old song. Fred Nelson just rearranged it, you know, and put it on that first CD.
Yeah. And we can't leave out the iconic He's Been Good. What's the soloist's name? What is his name?
Cornell Overton.
Oh man, that's a hit. That's a classic. It will never die.
You don't think so?
No, I was listening to it on the way here.
Oh, okay. I told you that album died for 20-some years, and the guy in Texas was playing it as DJ for a party, and the people asked, well, what they wanted information on this. You have to call First Church. So then, when I became the pastor, that happened, and we just reproduced it. You know, but you have to call the church to get it. Yeah.
Let's talk about the broadcast. Like, what are some memorable moments in the broadcast? Because wait, you all used to start at, was it 11 or 12?
11 o'clock. That went on for
years. Ain't that sleepy hours?
That went on for years and years and years. But people would come to the 8 o'clock service under Reverend Cobbs was living in order to hold a seat to stay for the broadcast at 12.
Wait, did you say what I think you said? You said people come at 8 o'clock.
See, we at that time it was 11 a.m., 8 p.m., and 12 p.m. People would come to the 8 o'clock service in order to have a seat for the 11 o'clock broadcast.
That many people there.
Yeah. And the choir would introduce their new songs at the broadcast. Right.
Now let me ask you this: like under preacher's pastorate, what did he allow you all to shout? Was there any shouting going on at preacher?
They call it the Catholic hour.
You would you say?
People call it the Catholic hour. Now, occasionally you can shout.
Okay.
But now, if he wanted to shout, it was okay.
Okay.
But if you wanted to shout, he cut you off.
Wow.
Right. But if he wanted to shout, it was okay. Yeah.
But when you look at like the different pastors that come along, because like I watched one clip, and I think it was Reverend Gray. It was like he always said he was going to dance, and there was one clip with him, and he actually danced at First Church of Deliverance.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember Reverend Gray ever dancing.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that clip.
But you know, I worked at CTA, so a lot of services.
Oh,
I might have not been there. I might have been working.
So you stayed a member even when preacher passed away. Let's talk about his passing. How did that hit you?
It like a relative. You know, it was like a relative because I was staying there at the house at night. We had the people and the nurses and things that came in the day, and the nurse who was the nurse board at the church, she and I stayed with preacher during his illness at night. I drove the bus in the day, and when I'd get off at 9:45 or 10, because I drove on the north side, and my garage was at Foster and Kedzie, so I would get in the car and drive to the house, and Marietta and I, we would be there all night, and then in the morning when the people would come, of course, I would go to I lived on the north side then, and I would go and take a shower and things and change my uniform and go to work until preacher passed away that June 28, 79. Yeah.
Wow. And of course, you've seen a video that I did paying homage to preacher at his home. There's many stories about his like the viewing of his body and things of that sort. So like how was the services maintained? Like how was the services of preacher? Like where was the body viewed and things of that sort?
At the home of the church.
Or at the home?
At home, well, he was in the living room at the fireplace, and people found out, when it passed and when you could come and view the body. And of course, we had the police department there, and you could come and file and then see the remains and leave. And so that went on over the weekend, and then we transported his body to the church, and then people were lined up all around the block and different things, to view the body. We had a wake, and then he did not want a long service.
Was it long though?
Hour and 15 minutes.
Wow, that wasn't long at all.
For him, hour and 15 minutes.
Wow. So what was the service like? Was there any famous singers there?
No, just a regular First Church service. Really? James Cleveland wanted to come because he called while I was that night when he passed. They were talking to him on the phone, but he wanted to make sure that he was guaranteed a seat. So that didn't work out too well. You come on, and yeah, but I guess that wasn't the answer he wanted.
So was there any little I's and big U's at first?
No, it's a regular. You saw the picture of me with Belandic, who was the mayor then, seating him, but just a regular First Church service. No, we didn't have all that like you do it. So this person's gonna speak that. We just had a regular straight order service, communion, and to Burr Oak. But when I became the pastor, I built the mausoleum, and we transported him now to Oakwoods.
Really? Man, you're gonna get me sentimental. Like you really cared about preacher.
Yeah.
So what would you say under your pastorship? What did you do to keep his legacy alive?
I followed it to the letter. I've never deviated. I never deviated. Yeah. I never deviated to the letter. That's right. He came to me, and he told me, I want you to do things in a big way. And everything event that we put on, God blessed it, and I did it to like he told me.
Yes.
I never changed anything.
Yes. I must say this. I'm glad I have this moment. I told you this in the car, and this is a true story. As a child, like my latter teenage years, me going around the city of Chicago, and me having my chance to do the broadcast hop and learn and go to different historical churches. And it was just so special because you were the pastor of First Church of Deliverance during this era, and it was just touching. When every time I see you and hear you talk, like I respected you from afar because you carried yourself with so much class, so much dignity. I mean, I just admired you from afar, and then to be in the services, to watch you, the rituals and the liturgical practices that you still held prominent there at First Church of Deliverance. It was so dear to me. Like I was just like I must say I was a fan.
Thank you.
I was a fan of yours, and I really do appreciate your work at First Church of Deliverance. We have Gospel Diaries merch available at ericmauriceclark.com. Your support means so much, so come over and check them out. We must talk about the album that you did with First Church of Deliverance. The reason why I respect that album is knowing the integrity of the choir. You can tell they sing a lot of high music. It's not a lot of, I wouldn't say black gospel. It's very sophisticated music, right? So here we are, Bishop Otto T. Houston. I think this was it 06, 07? Somewhere in there.
Way back there.
And I'm listening to this album. I'm like, oh my God, you have the integrity of the choir, but yet you're relevant to the moment. Let's speak about that album. How did that album come about?
Fred Nelson, who was director of music for the choir, he came to me, talked about Butchie. He called me Butchie. Started talking about, I think we should do this album, the CD, and blah, 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 blah. It's time for us to do a new CD since the good. He's been good out under Reverend Gray, so we started planning and what have you. And it was a long process to get some of it. We did in the church, some we did touches up in the studio. And where you hear me speaking, that was a sermon, and he took excerpts from the sermon and placed it in different parts of it.
I think the name of that song was like Yes.
One part of it, you talking about Yes.
Yes.
The Yes part.
Yes.
The Yes part was I was here at a church, because you hear me say I was at a church.
Yes.
And they had a sign up there saying. We are winners, right? And I said, of course, the pastor and I, we grew up in the mother church together, and I was just here visiting. And I said, Charlie, I called him Charlie, was the pastor. I said, he's gonna call me to give remarks. What am I gonna say? And I looked up there and I saw that sign and said, we are winners. And I started putting that together. We are winners and all that. And so that's what so I added that in the sermon. Well, I forget whether it was Lemuel who it was, wrote the music to put on, because Fred said everybody who's has to do original song, so then they did that to Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So when you woke up this morning, you are a winner. Yes, you ought to be saying yeah. Yeah, right.
I mean, that album is so powerful. I'm serious. Like, you can sit there and just tear up. I mean, yes, I can. Yes, but I really like God Can. That guy that's leading that actually sound. I thought it was John P. Key.
God Can. Yeah, okay.
I thought that was John P. Key.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, that's us. John P. Key. That's us. That's us. Everything is us. FCD.
Wow. And in any other rehearsals or anything?
Oh, I always go to choir rehearsal. Okay. Oh, I went to choir rehearsal if I didn't say nothing, because listen, when the chief is not there, the Indians can get out of order. And so people look for me. That was Thursday's choir rehearsal was always my long day. So people knew I would be there. They would schedule meetings and things. And at the end, I would go to choir rehearsal and I would just sit there and they would do the rehearsal. I never interfered or nothing unless they asked me something. But other than that, and everything would be in order. But if I wasn't there, the Indians can get out of order. So, of course, I enjoyed going to choir rehearsal too. Now and then I might interject something, and I thought something in the song. But I love my church, and I love my members. So we are all one family. In or out, up or down, sink or swim, survive or perish. We're all one family. And I said, if something comes up, keep it in the family and not outside the family,
Were there any moments that you just wanted to throw in the towel while you were a pastor?
Did I want to do what?
Throw in the towel. Were there any moments?
That became moments, you know, but there were moments that I was a black robe moment. Mm-hmm. You know, they say, just don't come down here with the black robe on, because then I knew there was some things I had to get straight. But you know, in families, you always have something. So I create the atmosphere that we are all family. But then sometimes
I love that.
It got to be too much, not so much from the congregation, in-house. You know, in-house just got to be sometimes too much. When I say in-house, I mean the people that are like part of the governing part.
Okay.
But at that time, of course, they've changed their bylaws. At that time, under me, I'm the last pastor. It says pastor chairman for the bylaws, you know, then you have people in place. So basically I had almost the last word, you know. I had the power, you know, but I never abused the power. But that was what caused me the most stress. Okay. Of course, you have the end is when you put out one fire over here, you got another fire over there. Wow. You put out that fire, there's another fire over here. You're just constantly putting out fire. You know? Yeah. Reverend Evans always told us, he said, it's not the preaching that kills us, it's the putting out the fires. You know, that you have to constantly put out fires. Some break out over here, some break out over there. You got a disagreement over here, you know, but it just can get to you.
So you be stern knowing that some people are not going to take it the way you intend for it to go.
It's like water on a duck's back.
I heard that before. Wait, because water, it runs off.
It runs off, okay. Right. Okay. Then water all the time. It just runs off.
Exactly.
Yeah, you learn to just let it go. You know, just let it go.
So you pastor a church that was already established. So 9 out of 10, some people were stuck in their ways, and sometimes when new pastors come along or when they change pastors, some people are not, you know, they don't want to go with the flow. So how do you deal to encourage a pastor that's coming into it? It takes 7 years.
It takes 7 years before you become the pastor.
Really?
Yeah, it takes 7 years.
Why so?
For them to get adjusted to you, and you get adjusted to them, and for them to kind of, they're still used to the previous. You know, so it just really takes 7 years.
Do that wear on your heart though?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you just, it wears on.
Have you ever cried or been emotional?
I don't know about crying, but I've been very angry. Okay. At times I've been very angry, just because people just set in their way, you know, and it's just hard for them to just accept new thought, new idea, you know. You want to stay with the tradition, but then God has given you a ministry too within that ministry. And so you have to remember that ministry, but you have to also go forward, you know. But it takes 7 years, Yeah, because see, you got to remember, I have Reverend Cobbs members, I have Reverend Gray's members. Reverend Porter was only pastor 3 weeks. And then I have my people. But so you have to kind of trying to blend all these different people together, you know, it's just, it can wear on you. Wow. Well, Bishop, you can get burnt out.
I hear you. Bishop, I wanted to come here and look you eyeball to eyeball and tell you I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
The world's proud of you. Okay?
Thank you so
never,
much.
Don't get it twisted. Okay.
Thank you.
And so, last but not least, just what's new with you? What's going on? What do you see in the future? What's in the future for Bishop Houston?
I'm glad to be retired.
Okay.
I'm still doing the work, but I just don't have the facility. And I travel when I want to. I go to service when I want to, but it's not a thing that I got to do, you know. And so I just have, it's a lot of pressure offered me. So I just didn't want to die on the job, and I just wanted to be able to do some stuff I wanted to do as a human being. So I'm happy where I am. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Bishop, we got so much footage, and we're not done. We're gonna show some footage of us in the car traveling and touring the city, and God knows, show pictures and everything like that. But as for this interview, I want to shake your hand one more time. Can I please shake your hand?
Yeah, thank you so much.
No,
thank you so much for coming. I'm really honored that you would come here to even spend some time with me. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
Just me and Jesus here.
But listen, you all know it, as I always say, love on someone and trust me, you will change your life. I'll see you guys later. Can you tell the people goodbye or good night or whatever?
Thank you so much. God be with you, and keep holding to God's unchanging hand.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, Brother James Barker, thank you so much for the connection, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, James.